Biff, we should have Ryan Frankenberry at 8:10. And then Matt Robeson at 9:10. Why was that? I knew it was Polka because I remember talking about Polka last week. Yeah, I knew Polka was there, so that was all right. Ah, okay, there we go. So Putnam was around. Yeah. Yeah, that's all right. That's okay. I knew when you said Putnam, I just remembered last week Polka being in Putnam, so.
Or dog boarding options? If so, call Dirty Paws, Wheeling's newest pet care service, providing the Ohio Valley with everyone's pet care needs. Check us out on Facebook at Dirty Paws WHG or call 304-639-7754.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy houses as is, fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-362-2000, 362-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, I'll buy it. I'm a private real estate investor who can solve your real estate problems fast for cash. Do you want to sell and just be done with it? Okay, great. I buy vacant properties, boarded up houses, pre-foreclosures, and inherited properties. I also buy apartment buildings, rental portfolios, divorce homes. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. I look forward to solving your real estate problems today. Give me a call for an all-cash offer at 614-362-2000, 614-362-2000.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster, with a look at your local weather forecast for your start to the work week. Clouds and sunshine mixing. Daytime highs near 60 degrees. Overnight low rather chilly, near 37. Under partly cloudy skies. Clouds and sunshine mixing again for your Tuesday, with highs in the upper 50s. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
Conversations you care about with people you know. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe, brought to you in part by Wheeling Hospital.
40 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport here at my home studios and at the Robinson Auto Group studios in downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. Going to look for certainly a better day than yesterday, but not the world's best day today. Going to see a partly cloudy day and temperatures around 57, 58 or so for today. Temperatures slowly rise over the course of the week, though. That's the good news. 40 at the airport, 40 here in Elm Grove, and 40 at the Robinson Auto Group studios. Coming up today, Governor Justice planning to end the Mountain State mask mandate. This comes as Dr. Fauci says the CDC is preparing guidance that indoor masks may soon not be needed. A key to lifting precautions like masks, though, is reaching high enough vaccination levels. So different incentives are being offered around the country, and some questions are being raised about the ethics of some of those offerings. The Trump years took us far down a gaslit road that divided our country and created great angst. How do we now find our way back? We'll talk with our political analyst, Matt Robeson, about that coming up a little bit later on. And sticker shock may be the phrase of the summer. More items are added to the list of things that are going to cause sticker shock as COVID-caused shortages mean dramatically higher prices in many areas. All of that. Plus, we'll get a chance to listen to Governor Justice as he once again goes after State House reporter Phil Kabler in a viciously personal way. I tell you, for a guy who at least once was a billionaire, now is a multimillionaire, that guy's got thin skin, Biffy. Jeez, he doesn't take criticism of any kind very well.
Well, no, because we're only supposed to talk about the goodness. That's why.
The flowers. Why don't you all report on the flowers in front of the Capitol? Why are you all talking about things like my maps don't work? Yeah, that's been his technique. He called Phil Kabler, and we'll hear this a little bit later on. He called Phil a gnat on a dinosaur. Why, Phil, you're nothing but, you think you're my arch enemy. You're nothing but a gnat on a dinosaur. which recalls another analogy he made a couple of years ago, Biffy, remember? The poodle and the bear?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The poodle and the bear? When he said that Ryan Ferns, wow, you think you're somebody important. You're just a poodle nipping at my feet. Well, one of these days, the bear's going to turn around and eat you.
Yeah. I tell you what, he's had some memorable ones, that's for sure.
You got to give, if nothing else, and I do give the governor credit for a lot of things. If nothing else, you got to give him credit for being colorful. It's not always a good thing, but you got to give him credit for being colorful. All right, one of the big issues pending in Congress, of course, is this infrastructure bill. What do they call it? For the American Jobs Act. And I want to talk a bit about that with Ryan Frankenberry. He's with West Virginia Working Families this morning. Ryan, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Howard. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you just fine. Sorry, I had to run away from you last week. I ended up being sick one day, and you were scheduled, and I wasn't here when you called, so I apologize for that. But we're back today to talk about this infrastructure bill. Let me ask you this just simply. What's the working families' take on this bill?
Well, I mean, we think that this is a critical bill for West Virginia and one that will improve, our crumbling infrastructure and upgrade our electrical grid while creating millions of good new union jobs. The Working Families Party has been a major proponent of the Thrive Act, which covers a lot of the things that are in the American Jobs Plan, pushing for a bold future. We think that there's, with what we've experienced in this pandemic, coming out and just doing good enough isn't good enough. So we are supportive of the American Jobs Plan. We want to see it get passed, and we want to see it bring that goodness to West Virginia, as you guys were talking about.
Yeah, you sound like Governor Justice. It's goodness. We have to have goodness. Ryan, what about the argument that are made primarily by Republicans, but maybe by some others as well, that it really isn't an infrastructure bill? I mean, everybody thinks we should fix our roads and bridges and maybe throw broadband in there as well, but that this bill ranges far and wide beyond that. How do you deal with that criticism?
Yeah, I think that it's all semantics. I think that people like to parse words to make it work for their argument. To me, I don't look at it as simply infrastructure. I look at it as this is our economic revival. And when we look at it from that standpoint, all of these things are part of infrastructure. We can't just say that we're only going to build the shell of a building. We've got to make sure that every system in it is working. And in our economy, the human infrastructure is critical. The rest of this country doesn't work without it.
Yeah, I think I've thought all along that this may be an issue of a language issue. Calling it the infrastructure bill makes it easy to say, well, items X, Y, and Z are infrastructure, but A, B, and C are not. In point of fact, the title of the bill is the American Jobs Act, which is designed to create jobs and to create a thriving economy moving forward. It is, I guess, it's akin to the New Deal almost. I think maybe language gets, and this happens so often anymore. And I will say this in a political sense: the Republicans are very good at using language to their advantage.
Sure. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, there is a lot of similarity to what could happen as with FDR's New Deal. When FDR basically provided rural electrification in the 1930s, that gave West Virginia a chance. And we've, of course, languished due to various political decisions, policies, industries. But this is a chance for West Virginia to move forward in the 21st century. When you say, you make a critical point about the fact that this isn't called the American Infrastructure Plan, it's the American Jobs Plan. The Working Families Party has been supportive, like I said, the Thrive Act. We created a coalition with our partners at the West Virginia Citizens Action Group and the Sierra Club, along with SEIU 1199, that we're calling the West Virginia New Jobs Coalition. And under that, you can read a jobs report that's built on the Thrive Act, it says that West Virginia could have potentially 50,000 new jobs if we were to pass components of the Thrive Act, of which the American Jobs Plan is certainly integrated. That's what we need. We need jobs. Jobs is infrastructure. Care is infrastructure. This is what is going to revitalize our economy and set us forward to a path that West Virginia can prosper finally.
The Thrive Act is a dramatically more expensive bill, though. The president's proposal is $2.3 trillion, somewhere in that range, I think, over a number of years. The Thrive Act, well more than doubles that, right? I mean, you're talking about investing.
Well,
somewhere I saw the number 10 trillion.
I don't want to get confusing between the two because honestly, the Thrive Act covers 9 areas. It's a much broader messaging bill to push for this bold policy, this bold legislation. So in reality, when you start to put the American Rescue Plan, the American Jobs Plan, the American Families Plan, which was just introduced, the Thrive Act and the components of it are pushing to make sure that those different pieces of legislation are really delivering for the American people in West Virginia. So there's not as much difference as you think. It's basically just another way of being able to tell the story of what America and what West Virginia can be if we pass really, really bold legislation. There's no reason that we should be just skimping along and not helping working families.
But there's a large contingent of folks, and not all Republicans, who think that even the president's bill, is awfully expensive. I hate to use this phrase, but can we afford it? Can we afford that kind of money right now, as a society, as a country?
We're the richest country in the world, Howard. We can afford anything that we decide is important. And the simple fact is that Americans and West Virginians do believe we can pay for this if we have the right people that are paying their taxes. That's a simple, we watched it happen in 2017 with the Trump tax cuts, where it gave $2 trillion tax cut to the wealthiest Americans. I would venture to say it didn't affect very many people in West Virginia at all. And we know that, when you ask a West Virginian or an American anywhere how we should be paying for these things that are going to benefit our society, they believe that, the wealthy should be paying their fair share. Corporations should be paying their fair share. It's about fairness. Americans believe in fairness. West Virginians were built on fairness. And there's certainly a way to pay for this. You look at the American Families Plan, which has like a $1.8 trillion cost to it. Well, $800 billion of that is tax cuts to the lower income. That's where we should be making tax cuts if we should be making tax cuts anywhere. But we can absolutely pay for this. We have to invest in the future, and that's what this legislation is. Bringing jobs to West Virginia is not a cost, it's a benefit, and we have to be making those investments.
Well, I certainly would agree with that. The question is how many people would as well.
I think you're kind of. I think you're getting to the point that I'd like to talk about is the fact that right now we have a Senate Republican leader in Mitch McConnell who has said that his sole focus is 100% against the new administration in this Congress. Yet you have people like Senator Capito who are proclaiming that they're going to be negotiating in an honest way and trying to reach a bipartisan agreement. I think that they've got a massive problem on their hands in the Republican Party right now as to which direction they're going to go, whether they're going for the American people or whether they're strictly focused on their base that is dead set against any kind of help for America.
Well, I don't disagree with you, and I've said several times recently, I'm a big believer in compromise. I like Senator Manchin's idea of finding a way to bipartisan do certain things. But and my analogy always is that when we all agree on a common problem, then we can begin to tackle it, even though we may have different solutions. All right. My problem is, based on Mitch McConnell's actual upfront words, the only problem he sees is Joe Biden and the Democrats. He's not looking at the common problems. He's not looking at infrastructure issues or at unemployment issues or at any issues that affect people. We can't solve a common problem when this guy says his goal is not to fix anything, not to solve problems, but to make sure the other side doesn't win. You can't compromise when that's the only thing they have in mind.
That's absolutely right. When your only strategy is obstruction, you're not there to work for the people. And I think that we are at a critical point in time in our nation's history where we need leaders to step up. I don't disagree with you, Howard. There is always room for compromise. But I think that at some point, when you're not negotiating in good faith, you're not actually compromising. And I think that we're going to start seeing more and more of this, rear its head. And it's going to be important that our elected leaders start to do what's absolutely right and necessary to make sure that we are, moving our country forward. We cannot have 4 more years of this, purely obstructionist politics that are only done for political gains. It's not looking for any kind of solutions whatsoever. And we have bold solutions that are being proposed. And if, Shelley Capito wants to put forward her own version, I think that, she should, right? But she should also do it in good faith. And we want to see her deliver, 9 other senators, 9 of her colleagues that are going to actually do it in good faith as well. We've already heard her say that, the first offer she made wasn't the final offer. I think that's an improvement over what Mitch McConnell said. But the reality is if we don't get to where we actually have votes on these things, then they're not actually coming in a bipartisan manner, and they're not actually negotiating in good faith. I think that President Biden inviting Senator Capito to the White House is showing good faith on his side. And so, I think that we're getting to a point where honestly, Republicans are going to have to make a decision, but so are Democrats. And if we don't see, if we can't even get bills to the floor to vote on, then we're not running a democracy here. And we've got to get to there. And we've got so much of it. The American Jobs Plan, if forced, I imagine that the Democrats will have to go to reconciliation again. But we can, which I support if that's the only option. But we've got to get to where we can take other critical legislation and debate it on the floor and have votes. At a minimum, we need to have debate and votes. Right now, that doesn't exist. And so we've got to start looking at that. I was incredibly glad to see Senator Manchin come out 2 weeks ago with Cecil Roberts from the UMWA and sponsor the PRO Act. That's another piece of legislation that we have to see passed. Jim Justice back in February, you guys were talking about Jim and his colorful phrases. Well, sometimes he tells the truth when he might not want to. And you guys recall when he told the truth about right to work and prevailing wage. That, we rushed in here and we passed these bills and we ran to the windows, he said, looking for all the new jobs and new companies that would come to West Virginia. And what did he say? They didn't come. Those policies are failed policies. We knew they don't work. And we need the PRO Act because, for one, it's going to make sure that right to work isn't a hindrance anymore. We need to be able to let workers unionize. And a unionized workforce gives us a strong workforce. It will make our economy stronger. It will make our products better. That's one of the many reasons we should pass the PRO Act. But right now, we don't have a chance to get the PRO Act to the floor because of the way the filibuster rules are working. So we've got to start looking at that. I think that there is movement on that, and I think that there will continue to be movement on that.
President Biden is clearly has the potential to be a truly transformational president. I mean, he really is talking about remaking the way government functions in this country. My question to you just would be, is he biting off more than he can chew? You know, we've got the PRO Act and the American Jobs Act and the American Families Act, and we have a number of things that are all, each individually excellent. They're expensive, but I'm setting aside the price tag completely. Is it biting off more than he can chew? Are we trying to turn things around too quickly, considering how long it took us to get where we are today? Does that make any sense? Does the question make sense?
It does. You left one thing out when you said what it is. What they also are incredibly popular. These policies are incredibly popular. They're incredibly popular nationwide, but they're also incredibly popular in West Virginia. It doesn't matter how people voted in the past election or the past election. It doesn't matter whether they consider themselves conservative or moderate or liberal or progressive. These policies, like the PRO Act, like the For the People Act, the recovery and the rescue plan was clearly popular. They're all popular because they do good things and they do provide solutions to problems that we have seen be exploited and made into things that, quite frankly, people are just tired of. And so I don't think he's bitten off too much. I think that he is seeing this as this moment in time where we have to do big things. This is, I was with Mayor Steve Williams down in Huntington last week for May Day, and he made a great speech. I think he's put it into an op-ed now, where he talked about, this is not just a pandemic problem. This is a generational problem, and these take huge solutions. I think that Biden has stepped into the role, frankly, better than I anticipated. And I think that the country is ready for this. We are ready to turn the page from the past 2 decades or better, really since Reagan. And I think that the partisanship it's got to be put aside, and people have got to start voting on policies that are going to affect their constituents and the people of the country.
I commend to our listeners reading Phil Kabler's State House Beat column this weekend, where Phil talks about how the Democratic Party in West Virginia kind of got off track from the days when FDR and JFK and LBJ were the true heroes, and for a very long stretch of time in West Virginia had become sort of a Republican light party. It's a good read that Phil does this weekend. I recommend people to take a look at it, because it does talk about how and when things changed in this state, and similarly across the country as well. Certainly going back, as you point out, Brian, to nationwide to the Reagan administration, where we just saw a complete shift in. But see, Reagan was somewhat of a transformational president too. So maybe it's time for another transformation here in this country. I don't know. I hope so.
Well, I agree. Yeah. Phil's column is a must read. And I think, you say about a transformational president, and we've seen them, and we've seen them as West Virginia for transformational presidents with FDR, with JFK. We kind of run in cycles, and we are at the top of a cycle right now where we need this transformational moment to happen. Otherwise, West Virginia is on a path that none of us want to see. It doesn't miss my thoughts that I'm sitting right now in the Eastern Panhandle. You're in the Northern Panhandle, and one of us is losing a Congress member. We've got to turn the state around. We've got to turn the country around, and we've got to have a government that is functioning. We've got to have, a Congress, a Senate that works. And right now, if we don't see some major changes, it's not functioning, and it's not going to work for us.
That's a great point, and I think you're right. The American people, West Virginians, and the rest of the country, the American people want government to be a help to them. They don't want them to be a hindrance. They don't want them to be they expect the government to do things in a positive way to make their lives better and easier. And I think we have demonized government for so long that we've gotten away from that. Ryan, I have to move on. I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much. Good conversation today. We'll be in touch as time goes by. All right.
Yeah, Howard, thanks for having me on. I look forward to talking to you. And again, if anyone wants to check out about the Thrive Act, you can go to newjobswv.org, or you can text WVJobs to 30403.
30403.
Yeah, that's WVJobs to 30403.
And it was New Jobs WV. Is that what it was?
Yes, newjobswv.org. And of course, we're on Facebook too.
Very good. All right. Hey, I appreciate your time today. We'll talk again soon. Thanks.
Thanks, Howard.
Ryan Frankenberry with West Virginia Working Families. He kind of moved us into an area that I'm going into next hour, which is this idea of a transformational time in our American history. Certainly, Donald Trump was not transformational. Donald Trump was simply disruptive. I mean, it was just an era. The 4 years of Donald Trump were eras of angst, of anxiety, of seesawing back and forth from one thing to another thing, an era where whether you agreed with him or disagreed with him, he created turmoil and disruption, not transformation. How do we find our way back from that to a transformational presidency under Joe Biden? Next hour, Matt Robeson, former congressional staffer, former campaign consultant, and now a podcaster and talk host, is going to join us. He's one of our morning show crew members these days, and we'll talk about that, finding our way back after Trump. But coming up in the next half hour, we will take a look at the mask mandate in West Virginia, the rising prices of lumber and other things, and we'll hear from Governor Justice, as he calls Phil Kapler, a gnat on a dinosaur, and we'll be glad everybody will be glad when you go. All coming up here on the Watchdog Morning Show.
The WTRF Channel 7 News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Now
Biff, I don't want to stretch this too long, so if I need a second break, I can take one during this half hour. Okay, that's not okay. That's sad, but but in terms of another break, that's good. Okay. You can heat this up, or why do I keep?
Well, you have to show up Tuesday and try to win an in-state battle against Marshall, and then you have to try to win your last 3 games at home next weekend against Miami of Ohio, and try to feel good about yourself before you head to Austin to finish the Big 12 regular season.
And that's likely going to be a play-in game, 8 and 9 in the Big 12 tournament. All teams making it this year. Usually it's the top 8, the 9th left out, but all 9 are going. There's going to be a play-in game that first night. West Virginia, in all likelihood, is going to be playing in that game. So the Mountaineers dropping 2 of 3 to the Oklahoma Sooners, which started as a promising Friday night. WVU unable to capitalize on Saturday on the momentum, and they fall 2 out of 3. Winning 7-1, falling 8-7 and 9-1 in a 3-game series against the Oklahoma Sooners. With Ernie Galuski, I'm Dan Zangrilli. That's today's Mountaineer Report, brought to you by Kroger here on MSN, the Mountaineers Sports Network.
You know, there's variety shows, and then there's, well, my variety show. I'm Bill DeFabio, and I bring you the best variety talk in the Ohio Valley, quite possibly the world. Join me from noon till 2 to talk sports, nostalgia, and hear from some of the legends of the game. You won't believe who I have on next. The Bill DeFabio Variety Show, noon till 2 on the Watchdog.
Does your dog need groomed or walked? Are you looking for a pet sitter or dog boarding options? If so, call Dirty Paws, Wheeling's newest pet care service, providing the Ohio Valley with everyone's pet care needs. Check us out on Facebook at Dirty Paws WHG or call 304-639-7754.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the Watchdog trusts.
Over the years, you've brought opioids into your home. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But holding on to opioids puts your family at risk. Learn more at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Update your appliances and get 11% off everything at Menards. Spruce up your home appliances with top brands including Whirlpool, Amana, KitchenAid, Maytag, and Criterion. Check out the largest in-stock selection to take home today at the lowest prices. Upgrade to new energy-efficient appliances and save 11% off all of them. Get 11% off everything now at Menards. Good through May 15th. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
It's time we put a stop to a few things. Right now, the D.C. establishment has all the power. The For the People Act will stop that. Billionaires buying West Virginia's elections, the For the People Act will stop that. Politicians and their families getting rich while we pay for it? Yep. The For the People Act will stop that too. Senator Manchin, you've always had West Virginia's back. Don't stop now. Stop corruption in its tracks and support the For the People Act, paid for by Represent Us. It's time we put a stop to a few things. Americans voting on machines that aren't made in America? The For the People Act will stop that. States using hackable voting machines with no paper trail? The For the People Act will stop that. Elections with no way to do careful audits or recounts by hand? Yep, the For the People Act will stop that too. Senator Manchin, you've always had West Virginia's back. Don't stop now. Stop election interference and support the For the People Act, paid for by Represent Us.
The timeless sounds of polka live here. Join us 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays for the Polka Showcase with Rich Biella. Sunday mornings never sounded so good.
The Valley's most interesting conversations continue now on the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe, brought to you in part by Wheeling Hospital.
41 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, 41 here at my home studios, 41 degrees at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. Talking to Ryan Frankenberry from West Virginia Working Families in the last hour, or last segment of the show, and about the American Jobs Act, the so-called infrastructure bill. Ryan was pointing out that the acts, that this act and many of other Biden's proposals are very popular with the American people. Off the text line, how can they not be popular? Giving free college, free babysitting, more money to stay at home. Well, first place, free college is something that's been talked about for a long, long time. We do it in the community college level here in West Virginia under Republican leadership. That was passed. Education is critical, and so the idea of allowing more people to attend has great value. Free babysitting, by that you mean he's planning to expand child care credit. Yes. When people talk about things like free babysitting, it comes down to people who do not comprehend how difficult it is for folks at the lower income levels to even get a job because they've got kids to deal with, and childcare costs money, and what are you going to do with the kids if you're going to go to work? And I don't know. And so, yeah, free babysitting, if you want to call it that, absolutely. What you have ignored is all so you focus on the little things that you think seem silly, although I can tell you why they're not. You don't look at all of the other stuff. You don't look at the building of roads and bridges and broadband. You don't look at the efforts to do clean water. You don't look at the efforts to improve our energy infrastructure, which has been a great problem. If you don't believe me, talk to the folks in Texas who went through that huge blackout not too long ago. We're talking about shifting the burden of taxation from the American people to the wealthy corporations. It's just the summary of this act is 95 pages long. So, free babysitting. Oh, you focus in on the little things, and you don't talk about all the stuff that is in that act. Another critic here, off the text line of 304-214-1600. 4 years into Donald Trump, at least the American people could afford to buy stuff and gas. Since Biden took office, everything under the sun has went up in price. And they blame everything except his policies. All crap. Well, except Biden's policies haven't really done much to increase the price of the various things that are going on. You know, lumber is one of the big things I wanted to talk about today. The price of lumber has gone up dramatically. Whew, dramatically. See it in our own family because my kids do a lot of work around the house, and they're trying to do some house renovations and stuff, and the price of lumber has gone up. That has to do, to a large extent, with the pandemic. It has nothing to do with Biden's policies. And the lumber shortage is likely to increase the price of a single-family home. They expect it to go up dramatically. New report out this weekend says because of the lumber shortage, the price of a single-family home has gone up $36,000 since last April. This comes from the National Association of Home Builders. Lumber prices skyrocketed 250% year over year, having nothing whatsoever to do with a Biden policy, having to do with a shortage of workers at lumber mills because of the pandemic, having to do then with a shortage of employees at the lumber yards because of the pandemic. So these have nothing whatsoever to do with Biden's policies. They have to do with, to a large extent, the pandemic. Average price of gasoline jumped 6 cents a gallon last week. 2 weeks, last 2 weeks, excuse me. Average price of a regular grade gasoline across the country, border to border, coast to coast, jumped 6 cents over the last 2 weeks. Average in this country now, $3.02 a gallon. I know that we got gas in my car like Thursday, $2.72, something like that. By the weekend, it was $2.87, going up dramatically right now. Why is that? Well, among other things, it's going to go up more because of this pipeline hack that has occurred. So that has nothing to do with Biden's policies. Pardon me. We have talked about the cost of chlorine going up. Yes, your summer swimming pools are going to be, you can have a hard time getting them, get chlorine in. Believe me, again, we've been looking in our family to get chlorine for my kids' pools so we can get swimming this year. But that's...
And not only the lumber companies as well, but I know painting. I know Dad's been having trouble because of what happened down in Texas with the oil refineries and
Right.
and everything down there. When they had that, it's a little it's a little tougher now for him. The stuff that he usually gets, and luckily he's trying to find what he usually gets, but he might have to go somewhere else just to see if they got it too. So I mean,
it probably will be more expensive. If he finds it, it's going to be more expensive.
Well, and it depends. So not only the lumber, but just an example from here is the painters as well. So I mean, they're even having a little bit of trouble. But luckily, I think for right now he's still good. But it's something that he's keeping an eye on.
And really, a lot of the construction-related items are all going up as well. Lumber is the big one, at 250% over the past year. I've seen some pictures online, on Facebook and other places, Biffy, that show a lumber truck filled 2 years ago or a year ago with X amount of lumber and said, this is what, I'm picking numbers here, $200 bought you this a year ago. And then they show a picture of a truck with two planks in it, basically. This is what it gets you this year. I mean, it's dramatic. And as you point out, everything surrounding it, which is why the National Association of Home Buyers this week says the average price of a house is going up. Lumber is going up. I don't know about nails, but I mean, all of the things it takes to build a house going up, paint going up,
supplies.
Paint supplies going up.
Yeah.
So as everything goes up, what does that mean? That means the cost of a house goes up.
And again, I mean, look, there are not too many places where you can go to buy lumber. I mean, other than what, probably 84 Lumber, Lowe's, Home Depot, maybe.
Right.
I think does Menards? I would imagine Menards has lumber.
I know I haven't been there, but I'm gonna guess that. I don't know.
So I mean, there's four right there that I could think of. Other than that, I don't know of any other place that would sell it. And I mean, not too many, are around here. I think out of those four, Menards and three of the four really, Menards, probably Lowe's and 84.
Yeah.
I mean,
Home Depot's in Washington, PA. But I mean,
yeah.
Listen, again, my kids are spending a lot of time because they do a lot of their own construction work. And they're spending a ton of time calling around, trying to find it, not just lumber, but again, other forms of construction supplies. Just a difficult, even things like the furnishings for the home. My youngest son is doing is trying to renovate a home he's going to live in. IKEA doesn't have things that they used to have, where he wants to buy, some kitchen appliances and stuff. So, I mean, this is going to be a sticker shock summer. And it's not just sticker shock. It's can you even find it? Can you even find it? Again, my oldest son just put a swimming pool in last year. And I don't think Teddy even got into it. I think maybe the adults got into it once or twice. So this is going to be the big swimming year. And Jason said, look, I don't care what it costs. I'll buy the chlorine. I don't care what it costs.
Well, and
I can't find it.
And think about this. If you do find it and people buy, how many are going to buy in bulk?
Oh, absolutely.
Just so they have it.
Absolutely.
It'll go great. It'll go great sitting next to the supply of toilet paper that some people have too.
Well, now remember, the good news is toilet paper is going down finally, because we have that's one thing that's not going up. All of the price of diapers is going up. The price of diapers has gone up. They went up 9% this year. I don't know why. I do know why. Almost all of this goes back to disruption in supply lines caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Diapers, for heaven's sakes. I mentioned gasoline went up 6 cents in the last 2 weeks. At the grocery store, eggs, meat, fish, milk, all up 4% this year over last year. We talked about the price of pork a couple weeks ago, Biffy. You can do some barbecuing this year. Maybe buy that in bulk too and put it in a freezer or something, because the price of pork is up dramatically this year.
Put it in that extra freezer you got in the basement.
That's right. Maybe go buy an extra freezer. Stimulate the economy, buy an extra freezer. So this stuff is very real, but almost none of it has anything to do with Biden policies. Again, the idea that, and by the way, that's to some extent true of Trump or anybody else, the idea that government policies are what lead, the economy runs on its own, you know? The economy ebbs and flows based on supply, demand, other factors. Things will disrupt it. Like, again, we're going to probably see the price of gasoline go up even more now because of this pipeline hack that we heard about over the weekend. The giant Colonial Pipeline was hacked, and unless it's up and running very, very soon, and this goes all the way from Texas to New Jersey.
It's a long stretch.
It's a long pipeline. It is, officials are calling it the worst cyber attack yet on U.S. soil. It was a cyber attack on this pipeline. But that's a huge transportation mechanism for gas. Well, that's not a Biden policy fault or a Trump policy fault. It is.
It's get a better password fault is what it is.
It's exactly right. You're right. Don't write your password underneath the calendar on your desk. Yes, you're right, Biffy. You're right. You need a better password. So it's just going to be a long summer. That's all. Prices and so many things are going up, and the interesting thing is, I've been reading a lot about this lately. Economists aren't really sure if this is a short-term or a long-term problem. You know, will lumber prices, for example, begin to go back down? Now, you and I both know, Biffy, nothing ever goes back to the way it was, right?
No, I think can we get it as close as we can? I think
can we at least get it to go down closer to what used to be normal? And again, economists that I'm reading, they're very different opinions. Some think this is a short-term problem, and so eventually the supply will catch up with the demand, and then that means the prices will come down. Others think this is a long-term problem that's not going to turn around. Sticker shock, again, that's the phrase you may want to be thinking about throughout the summer, because it's going to be around a lot. Before the hour here on the Watchdog Morning Show, 41 degrees, I think. Double check that for you real quick. Yeah, 41 degrees and cloudy at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, 41 degrees at my home studios, and 41 degrees at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. So I want to get into politics next hour, and I want to talk a bit about how do we find our way back from the Trump era. Donald Trump, to use the phrase I used earlier, was a very disruptive presidency. It was not transformational. He didn't turn the country around in the way Ronald Reagan turned us around from a democratic working person's country to a elite corporate country. Reagan was a transformational president. Biden is attempting to be a transformational president in reverse. Trump was simply a disruptive president, and his presidency left things in a bit of a shambles. And of course, he wants to come back again in 4 years. But how do we as a country find our way back from that? How do we find our way back from Trump? The Republican Party itself is having gigantic internal battles over whether they want to be the party of Trump or a true Republican Party. The Republican Party they used to be, or the party they are now, which is the party that bows down to Donald Trump. And we're seeing that play out right now, for example, in the Liz Cheney case, where she has spoken up quite clearly against the big lie, the president's claim that his election was stolen, he really should still be president. She's spoken up against that. She voted for his impeachment. She continues to say the party needs to get away from being supportive of the big lie and of Donald Trump. Unfortunately, leadership in the party still seems to want to support the big lie and support Donald Trump. And so they're trying to strip her of her chairmanship. And you heard a story on ONN, or Ohio News Network, earlier this morning. There are several Ohio Republican congressmen who voted for impeachment, Republicans who voted for impeachment, and now the Republican Party wants to censure them because they voted their own way. Do we come back from that? How do we come back from that? We as a country, they as a party. Matt Robeson will talk to us about that coming up a little bit, coming up after the news break. Matt has been doing some work on his various podcasts, interviewing a lot of experts on this subject. We'll get his take on that next hour. And I still need to talk about the mask mandates and Governor Justice and Phil Kapler. That's still coming up on the Watchdog Morning Show. It's 9 o'clock.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
From ABC.